Jack Hanma returned to the Baki world after not getting a chance to face Masashi Miyamoto, defeated this Giga Doggo, defeated Nomi no Sukune, destroyed the current best swordsman in Japan, humiliated Kosho the Cord Cutter, defeated Pickle in one of the most one-sided fights of all time, and now has also defeated Hanayama in a street fight, begging the question of who the biting cyborg is going to face next, who in the Baki world he's going to destroy, and the next victim of the almighty Jack Hanma. Welcome to the Mysterious Weeb YouTube channel, a place with all the Baki content you need. Let's break down absolutely everything you need to know. So right off the bat, let's take a look at characters within the Baki series Jack Hanma has actually officially called out and is yet to actually face them in the Baki Rahen manga. Which brings us back to Baki Dao chapter 121, right after the biting cyborg defeated Sukune, where he says, "I've heard enough praise, the time to celebrate is over," looking up at those watching, particularly the likes of Baki, saying, "Get down here." Then the little Hanma lands like a meteorite and the stare-off begins. Baki questions him about whether he's looking to take a bite, but no, Jack is going to devour Baki. A chapter that released over 3 years ago and was followed by something absolutely wild. Right away, Jack begins talking to Tokugawa and says, "Set us up a match," highlighting that he wants to throw hands with Baki right here, and then the old man questions the champion about what he thinks, where he also agrees. "I'm ready anytime, any place, for anyone. I can't say no here." Then Jack begins talking a little bit of shit, saying, "Don't act so smug. It didn't have to be you, Baki," but as Jack begins to look around and points at Motobe alongside saying his name and taking a smile, claiming, "It's thanks to you Gaia was invented. The least I could do is give you a bite," highlighting that Motobe is a very important character to current Jack, potentially even more so with Pickle that we learned in the recent narrative during their fight. Jack's teeth were absolutely destroyed by Motobe during their clash in the Masashi Miyamoto arc, where Motobe technically saved Jack's life, as if Jack was to face the legendary samurai in that arc. I think many of us would actually see Jack Hanma being killed due to the crazy extent he would actually push himself and take a fight, and if no one is there to save him, Miyamoto would pretty much be forced to kill Jack. So he didn't really just push Jack down the path of inventing Gaia with his titanium teeth, he pretty much saved Jack's life as well. So this rematch is going to be absolutely insane. However, I can't say it's going to happen next. Jack then proceeds to call out Gaia, the character who probably ranks the lowest on most people's power ranking out of all the people Jack could potentially fight in the current story, but it's possible they could do a very interesting twist on the fight. For example, Jack says to Gaia, "The final evolution of close quarters combat is not in your military combative. The ultimate weapon mammals have is our teeth, nature's ancient solution," with the likes of Motobe even gaslighting Gaia a little bit, where it gives me the idea that Jack's fight against Gaia could be somewhat similar to Baki's original fight with him when he was 13 during the Grappler Baki flashback, a battle in the forest, Gaia's ideal environment, similar to how Jack's fight with Motobe will be against him using weapons with some degree of prep time. And since Gaia is technically Motobe's student and has very clearly been demonstrated as inferior to the weapons master, Jack fighting Gaia before him kinda has to happen, and I do believe when you consider the power ranking aspect, he could very well be next. But Jack doesn't stop there. He proceeds to call out Dopporochi, saying karate techniques are supposed to be effective one-on-one against weapons, even against groups, against everything and anything, but can karate handle biting. Once again, building up his Gaia as the superior martial art and fighting style. And in regards to Doppo Orochi, he has had a little bit of setup since the Sumo arc as well. For example, he was the main dude to fight Keiha, the other reincarnation sumo legend. He also had a sparring match and some build up alongside Kosho at the start of Baki Rahen, so his involvement in the story has been there quite a bit. But coming back to Jack, he proceeds to call out Katsumi Orochi in a similar way, saying, "How would your karate hold up?" With it being clear to me that Doppo really needs to face Jack before Katsumi due to Katsumi's narrative and build up throughout the story as surpassing his father and now being the combination of Japanese karate and Chinese Kempo, the legacy of Retsu. So this is a fight I'm personally most excited for, but I do believe it needs to happen after Doppo Orochi. Following that, he talks to Goki, someone he actually faced during the maximum tournament and defeated. But the old man has still maintained ultimate goon status, and Loki might be one of the most underrated Baki characters in overall appeal in the story and fighting ability as well. So regardless of the original outcome, I think he's still a threat to most characters. But the funniest thing to consider with this entire chapter, regardless of the wild ending that no one's ever going to forget of Jack calling out Yujiro, so far in the Baki Rahen, he hasn't faced anyone he originally called out after defeating Sukune. It began with him destroying that random sword dude who was also destroyed by Miyamoto Musashi when he first arrived to the modern era. Then Kosho returned out of nowhere stronger than ever before. Likewise with Hanada for that whole mini training arc and weird stuff with Hanayama as well. Then we had the return of Pickle, which made a lot of sense. There was build up at the end of Baki Dao with him, and the importance of the Dino Boy to the biting cyborg was very clear. So that fight made a lot of sense. Then a lot of stuff in that pretty much set up Hanayama throughout. So that being right after made a lot of sense as well, with the various interactions between Jack and Yujiro throughout the 51 chapters of Baki Rahen so far, continuing to set up that fight with subtle build up from Baki as well, with him now getting his own fight, which could be an overarching narrative and way to build up Jack and Baki's eventual clash in the future of the Rahen manga, meaning to me they won't be fighting anytime soon. Jack will need to face all these other guys first before getting to the other Hanmas, which brings me to who will Jack actually fight next? And out of all the characters I've talked about in today's video, there's still two who pretty much are regarded as top tiers in the Baki world. Jack hasn't talked about or called out in any way. The first one is Biscuit Oliver, who also defeated Sukune, and similar to Hanayama and Pickle, is more so a gatekeeper for the Hanmas or being worthy to face Yujiro Hanma. If you can defeat Mr. Unchained, you're worthy to fight Baki or Yujiro. That's more so how I see it at the current minute, and his current point should be the strongest he's ever been, likewise with all the fighters I talked about in today's video. So that clash is something I would be insanely hyped for and would give us a pretty good understanding of where Biscuit Oliver currently ranks within the verse, as the Sukune rematch was kinda hard to definitively gauge him. And the other one, who I doubt will actually fight Jack, but anything is possible considering this is Baki we're talking about, is Kaku Kaio. His big fight in the series that kinda set up a rematch at the end was of course against Yujiro Hanma. Since then, he's more so just been taking a training role. This was in the Pickle arc for Katsumi, then in the Musashi Miyamoto arc for Retsu. He did knock out Motobe when he was being a little bit of a menace during Retsu's training, but overall fights since the Ogre Clash all those years ago hasn't been the case. So if he was to face Jack, I think that would be pretty cool, and considering the trend of Rahen where they're pretty much bringing a lot of older characters back better than ever before, I think Kaku finally getting another fight would be absolutely sick, and honestly kinda needed at this point. as in my recent ranking video which created this tier list, I would say about 50% of the comments that I've been replying to are in relation to Kaku's ranking. My reasoning mostly relates to an Ali Jr. statement that he's pretty much as strong as Goki and Doppo back during that arc, with nothing since then really disproving that, particularly with Kaku not getting any fights while Goki and Doppo have. Alongside just the narrative providing, at least to me, that Retsu had surpassed Kaku during the Miyamoto Masashi fight, but even that wasn't enough to deal with the legendary samurai. But him having a fight against Current Jack will definitely allow us to place an updated ranking for him, as there are quite a wide range of opinions on that. Therefore, I don't believe Jack Hanma is going to fight Yujiro, Baki, Motobe or Katsumi next, while the likes of Gaia, Doppo, Goki, Oliver and Kaku could very well be the case. And since we've had a fight in the underground arena and now on the street, I think facing Gaia in the forest or something would be a pretty cool change of pace. However, I still have the feeling Doppo Orochi will be going next, considering all the setup we've gotten so far. And since I've been predicting his matchup against Jack for a number of years now, I might as well continue with the trend until it actually happens. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Check out this one going over Baki Hanma's current fight and what he's been doing over the recent years of Baki. And that's it guys, peace.